now. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Rick Zanotti, and next to me is Kirsten Rourke.
Hello.
It is January, not June, 23rd. During the pre-show, actually the last 2 weeks, I keep thinking it's June. I don't know why. Maybe it's prophetic. But
well,
anyway,
you're not on the East Coast.
I'm not on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. Time is different out here.
Yes.
So, anyway, well, here we are, and Kirsten just became her desktop, I think.
Did I?
You switched, or did Mike? Oh, no, it's a stupid... Skype just decided to give me a weird message. Why does it do this? Let's get out of there. There you are. You're back. I'm sorry about that. Skype has a habit of every so often just saying, oh, you must... Not Skype, but it was the Mac. It gave me some sort of time machine message. Now, for some odd reason. It's like, hey, they're running something. Let me come up. All right, we're back.
Oops.
So anyway, you've been a busy camper. What you been up to?
I have been a busy camper. I just spilled coffee on myself. Okay. Well, now that we have a classy show, can't let me go anywhere. Oops. Let me get my microphone back. Hello. There we are. All right. Yeah, that was good. All right. Yeah, see? What deadline?
Yep.
Giant pot of coffee. I'm waking up. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. Last year I ran an event called an Adobe Camp, and you were at it, and that was great, and got to bring in speakers from all over. And Adobe Camps are a little unusual because they're not for-profit events that Adobe sponsors, and the community, so user groups, run them, and they bring in professional speakers who donate their time to be able to teach and speak. And we were lucky enough that we got really amazing support from the user group manager for North America, Aaron Houston. And he, in the classic Aaron style, he just informed me before the camp last year that he thought it was going to work, so we should just do it every year. And so we're doing it again. And we're bringing in speakers, and we have the space, and we're getting everything together, and it's sort of the beginning of it because it's June 7th, so we have some time. But it's, you really do have to plan these things more wedding schedule than party schedule. Right.
Do you have location yet?
Sorry?
Do you have location yet?
Yeah, I'm going to use the same location as last year, which is the conference center for the Harvard Medical School.
That was a nice place.
And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And they were very nice because I told them I had some budget constraints this year, and they were nice enough to help me out. So it was just really wonderful. And we have some amazing speakers coming in, and I'm waiting on the last confirmation for video. But we have Stephen Burns for Photoshop, and he's just stunning. Kevin Stolmeyer's coming back, and he's going to do Creative Cloud for Teams and some other wonderful stuff.
Oh, great.
And, hi, Leave. How are you? I have an event I'm running in June, and I'm just explaining who's coming to it. Sometime I will definitely bring Leave in to do Captivate, because that would be great. We can fly her into the States. And I have Hannah Messer coming in from your area, and she's going to do Illustrator, so we're almost there.
That's pretty good. What do you have? One more or two more?
I'm really the big thing I'm waiting on is the video guy, and I think he said yes, but I am not sure yet. So I'm waiting on his response. But yeah, it's definitely getting there. And what's funny is because that whole thing, if you do well, people sometimes give you more work.
Yes.
Well, so Aaron, the guy who's in charge of community for North America, let me know that because he thought I had done a good job, he would also give me a nice little treat of giving me another event to run. So March 11th, my user group is going to be running, and John, yes, the date moved. So I need to talk to you. Make sure that's cool because John's in the chat pod. We're going to be bringing in Rufus Deluche. I'm going to butcher his last name, the poor man. He's the senior evangelist for design for Adobe, for worldwide evangelist. And he's coming into Boston, and he's going to be doing an evening for just 150 people. And he's going to be doing what's called a Create Now tour stop. So Create Now, Adobe's Create Now tour is going across the U.S., and they're going to stop in Boston. So it'll be very good. So it's going to be March 11th.
That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be an evening event, and I found out yesterday that we do get Rufus, and I'm very excited about that because he's a stunning talent.
So as long as you behave, good things happen.
Well, that's the theory. That's the theory. So yeah, lots going on. I mean, it's all volunteer stuff, but it's exciting and it's fun, and my user group's awesome. So
yeah. And if you haven't seen Kirsten perform live, she's actually very good. She's funny, and she's you're a class A act. You're good.
I'll give you your 20 later, I promise.
Thank you.
So what's going on
with you? By the way,
you?
since you're doing 2 shows, it's up to 40 now. But no.
Yes.
Just busy, just working contracts, having a pretty good time with work, and we've got 3 shows right now we're doing with RELATECASTS, and 1 more coming on next week, which will be with Adele O'Mahony. She's out of the UK, and it's going to be called Conscious Creation, a little bit different from what we've been doing, but really looking forward to it. It should be a fun show. Going to talk about all sorts of stuff about frequencies, resonating, health, how to make your life better, being positive, how to deal with all sorts of stuff. It'll be fun.
Very cool. Well, for those of you in the chat pod, if you're not aware of it, we obviously did move to an earlier time today. Thank you for being here. And we don't have a guest today, so I was going to do some demos after we sort of gave you the general news.
Yeah, that sounds good. Now, the Adobe Camp, was that June 7th, you said?
June 7th.
It's a one-day camp.
One-day camp. It's Friday. It's an all-day thing, and it's just... I'm biased, obviously, but it's criminally good deal because it includes some breakfast, it includes lunch, it includes professional speakers and networking, and it's $45 early registration.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap.
That's
a steal. That actually, it's well worth it, and the place is beautiful too. Was that like a Buckminster Fuller kind of design? It has sort of that look.
It was, yeah. It's
almost does it have a geodesic dome? Kind of.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's really beautiful, beautiful space. If you go to Adobe Design Camp Boston.com, there's the links that get you over to the Harvard Medical School Conference Center. You'll see photos, and it's just, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's just a gorgeous space, really good acoustics. So it'll be great.
Yeah, it should be fun.
June 7th and March 11th. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming to Boston, and Adobe Boston User Group and InDesign User Group Boston are helping us. So we're all working together, and the Creative Pro Boston User Group is also joining us this year, hopefully. So we're bringing a whole bunch of groups together. It'll be great.
That sounds good. Now, you were going to show some Photoshop today, right?
Yeah, what I wanted to do was explain a little bit about why you might, in Photoshop, want to use a little technique where you essentially wrap a piece of your image inside essentially a protected envelope called a smart object. Mm-hmm. And I have a Photoshop file that is really kind of the sickest one I could find because I wanted to go and show like the over-the-top version and then open up something, simple and go ahead and show the process of making smart objects. So let me go ahead and...
Yeah, and smart objects aren't utilized as much as they could be, especially by beginners.
Really not. And I think it's because once they're explained, it's sort of, okay, it's a protected space inside your file. Why would you want to do that? Now, Leva in the chat pod is saying she uses it quite often, but that's because she's a genius. She's such a smart woman. Happy to see you, hon. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, it's funny because especially newer Photoshop users don't tend to use it. So let me go ahead and hop over here and share my screen and see. Oops, make sure I go with the right spot. Oh, okay. I see another. So Iggy Web Designs also uses smart objects. Excellent. Glad to hear it. Okay. Good, good, good. So can you see
Yep,
my
we
screen?
see Photoshop.
Okay.
Actually, it
Now,
looks pretty clean.
yeah,
And
this.
just so you know, we're actually transmitting in HD. Well, actually, not transmitting, but we're recording in HD, 720p.
Oh, excellent.
So it should
Excellent.
look pretty clear.
Okay. So this is Photoshop CS6, and I just have a really simplified screen because I've used the Essentials workspace here. Now, because I'm on a Mac, I've got this on my second monitor, which is why you don't see the menu bars up at the top, so don't be confused by that. This particular image I wanted to use because I did a lot of things with this image when I was playing with it. And when Rick and I were talking about what sort of things we might want to do, I thought smart objects might be fun. So one of the things is, I'm going to bring my layers panel out and just make this guy longer. I organized this particular file into folders to make it a little bit easier to see what, specifically what we're going to focus on, which is the girl. But what I want you to see is that if I open all of this stuff up, I was bored. I was playing kind of ridiculously, and this folder old stuff here is sort of just stuff I left because I haven't had the patience to get rid of it yet. You'll see some weird things like here it says test blending modes. I'm going to try a little technique here. Let's see if this works. There we go. Do you see that? See that zoom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is something that I was using because I was using this file with one of my online students. And it was an example of how you can go ahead and have different blending modes. So here, if I put it at the very, very, very top, just use this as an example for a second. Explain what I'm doing. Oh, come on. All the way up. Seriously. There we go. So this in the chat pod, let me know if you're a big blending modes person. I'm assuming probably, but just let me know. I just took a straight layer and put a bunch of different colored circles on it because what I was trying to show my student was that if you want to see what effects different blending modes have, you can read the descriptions in the help directory, and that will help you not at all, because the descriptions don't really give you a mental picture of what they do. So if instead you create a layer and put some color on it, what you can do is then try different modes on top of an image, and you can get a sense of what that mode will do. Now you have different groupings here. You have a darkening area, a lightening area, you have a contrast area. But sometimes it's less important what the color mode is and more important to figure out, well, which one is going to do what I want today. So what's nice is you can kind of mess around with this and go, oh, I get this really weird, neat effect. What happens if what does it look like on green or blue? Oh, blue has its effect on her. So if you have an image you want to play with blending modes, you can put this sort of just colored shell on top and get an idea of what you might want to do with your technique. And that's how I made some of my decisions, is I played around with some blending modes and ended up doing way more purple and blue in here than I originally intended, and I got what I got a little more ethereal than I would have originally gotten. So thanks. She said that she likes that idea. She'll give it a shot. So that's blending modes, just really, really, really quick.
You bring up a good point, because one of the things with Photoshop is when you start playing with it, you can come up with some really cool, totally unexpected designs, very abstract things that you go, wow, that really looks great, and you leave it.
Yeah.
But you're right. If you got to play with some of these features, and you can get some really fun stuff out of it.
Yeah, I found that especially with Photoshop, I just really feel like what I need to do is to take some images and just mess with them in a lot of different ways until I get struck by, oh, that's good. How on earth did I do that? And back up a little and recreate the wheel. So, for example, like this image started with me going into Fotolia.com and finding a picture of a dancer. And what I'm going to do is go in, and I'll explain this in a second because I want to go all the way in and show you guys the original image. So this is what I started with. Let me wait till the screen catches up because I think my screen is a little... There we go.
We can see the picture.
Okay, so I saw this image in Fotolia.com and it instantly just... I looked at it and was like, that's stunning, that's beautiful, I want to work with it. I went and found wings. I went and found this sort of, artsy ethereal background, and then I found a separate photo that had a waterfall and some abstract photos that had little nice light bursts. And what you'll see is I went and I drilled down inside this Photoshop file to get to the original image. Because in Photoshop, if you use the eraser tool, you're getting rid of pixels forever, and that's usually a really bad idea. Sometimes it's a fine idea, but in this case, I don't really know if I ever want to recapture part of this image. So what I did is I took the original image and I wrapped that in a smart object. But you'll see there's 3 tabs at the top of my screen. Now this says Fairies PSD, so it's the original Photoshop file. This one says layer 12, blah, 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 PSB, which is the name for Smart Object Envelope. I have no idea what PSB means. And this is Leap PSB, which is the actual file. So I have 2 layers of Smart Objects. I wrapped a photo in a Smart Object, and then I actually wrapped it in another Smart Object. And here's why. When I took the girl, what I did is I'm going to turn off a lot of this stuff, and you'll see that as I start turning on pieces, I did kind of a lot of things in the panels over here. I have 3 kind of versions of her. I have just her head because I wanted her hair to look in a very specific way. So I actually used her image and just masked away. So this link here in this black box is a mask. I masked away everything but her face and hair. And here is the original image. You'll see Smart Object. So that's what that little icon means right there. I don't know if you... Rick, is that easy enough to see, or should I zoom in?
You can see it pretty well. You can zoom in if you want. It'll probably look better on the recording.
Yeah, here. Whoops. Let me actually come over here and... Oh, it's... nope, I'm zooming in on my image, not zooming in.
Yep.
That's not what I meant here. Let me try this. Nope. That's not doing it. Sorry.
No, we're okay.
Okay. So here... let me bring her back. There we go. So the headless dancer. All this is this little tiny square in the bottom right corner is what lets you know that it's a smart object. And I'll cover how to create a smart object in a minute. But what I did is I took the original file and I'm actually getting to it twice. Once for just her body here, and once for just an extra piece of her dress. Because the purple that I put on, I wanted to look a little different on her dress than I wanted to look on her body. So see the front of her legs here? If I add in extra dress and add in extra color, I get some nice transparency there. And I was trying for something very specific, so I was just messing around with using the same smart object more than once. All I did was copy it. There's a bottom layer here that says color fill. In the chat pod, you guys let me know if you do this. When I'm playing around with masking and going for transparency, I often need to have something that really makes the transparency stand out. So what I did is I put a color fill underneath so that I could tell how well the transparency was working. Now, obviously, I can't have this turned on in the final image because it would look really weird to have this blue coming out of her dress. But I like to have a really strong color, a blue or a green or a red, so that I can see how well that's working. and I can get a sense of what this purple on a multiply blending mode is doing. So I've turned on this particular mode, and I'm making it fade out into this sort of nice dark purple color, just so that you can see through it a little better. So in the chat pod, Leva, you guys do this? Do you ever use an underlying color to help you see the transparency, or is that just my particular quirk?
And while they're answering, I do. I
You
do
do?
the same thing, because otherwise I can't tell exactly how transparent I am.
And what kind of color?
I tend to go for either blacks or dark blues, so I could see the outline, the edges, and see exactly how transparent. So darker colors, like you said. Usually I'll probably use a dark blue.
Okay. These guys are saying that they do that. Yeah, this is where, for folks who watch this video later on, or if you're in the chat pod and you're newer to Photoshop, this is something where you really want to make it easy on yourself. And in the chat pod, Leva's making an excellent point that the color you want to use for your test background is really dependent on the image. So if it's an ocean area, you're not going to want to use this blue background.
Right,
You'd want
right.
to use this. So it really depends on your image. But what I did is, as I build this image together, I just have two references to the original girl. So both of these guys, if I open this up, I will get to that one original photo. So both of these reference that one. If I change that one drastically, and I'm going to double click on the smart object and say OK to go inside it, if I was to change her drastically, I would change both of those on the outside. So if I went through and decided to do something like, I will just make her, there we go. Let's make her green. So all I did was throw an adjustment layer above the image. I didn't go through and color shift the actual photo because I don't want to change the pixels. I want a editable temporary change that I can always back off. But if I close this smart object, it will update eventually, and both of those will change. Now, you notice her head didn't change because her head is not part of that smart object. This was just that photo. When I was doing this, I was too lazy, so I brought in the photo again, and this is a mistake because I really should have referenced the original photo so that her face would be green as well. Okay, so the head is actually just a separate image. If I was doing this properly, I would have pulled in that image again as a smart object, so all three of them would reference the original photo. So this is why smart objects are a really good idea, because if you bring in that photo again, you have to go through and do this color a second time. And I have to make her look like the Incredible Hulk. So it's one of those things that the non-destructive nature of not only smart objects, but adjustment layers is huge in Photoshop. I'm going to go back inside my smart object, and I'm going to turn off my adjustment layer and close my smart object and save it. And when I come out, she will look normal. Now, this, as I said, I was really, really bored the week I did this and just decided I'm going to spend an obscene number of hours this week just messing around with Photoshop. So if I was doing this for class, if I was doing this for professional purposes, I would have taken the time to be a lot more thorough. But I did a lot of backwards and forwards just messing around with it. So
now this hasn't changed from Photoshop CS4, 5, 6. This is about the same, right?
Well, the basic features are all the same. They added quite a lot. They added a lot of speed to 6.
Right.
They some new functionality, some 5 added features, 6 added new features. But 5 and 6, I was always pushing using adjustment layers, because the adjustments here are just something you always want to use something that's non-destructive. You never want to do anything that actually affects the real pixels if you can help it.
Now, what happens if can you flatten an image that has smart objects?
You can flatten an image, but what happens with flattening is that you lose any ability to then go back and really work with it. I almost never flatten my images. I almost never need to. I will save out things as a Photoshop file and place them into in my design, and I'll use the live InDesign. I mean the live photo file inside InDesign. If I'm handing someone the final object from Photoshop, I will save it out as a JPEG or a PNG or a PDF or whatever.
Right.
But I don't tend to ever compress together layers. But I also am not working in 600 layers either. I tend to go up to a couple hundred, and then that's where my brain starts to melt. So that's where this is. Let me close this particular object. The layers here that you see, all of these changes, all of these pieces to this girl are wrapped inside one envelope. So if I close this smart object, all of those changes, the transparency, the purple affecting her dress differently than her hair, is all inside this one layer right here, which is why I wanted it to be a smart object. I can make lots of changes to it and then just turn that on and make whatever changes to her I want to make. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So let me go in and create a file here. Let me open up, let's see if I can find Leap for a second. Okay, I'll use this guy. So obviously I like working with images of dancers because I just love the body lines. I love the power of them. Again, this is totally a .com image. If I wanted to go through and work with this guy, one of the things I would probably do is go ahead and make him into a smart object so I could do a lot of things to him without worrying about necessarily Leave is asking if I've been dancing as well. I haven't, not as much with the gimpy shoulder. I'm getting back there though. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love working with images of dancers, is because it's a particular passion of mine. In this image, what I'm going to do is just right click and choose Convert to Smart Object on the layer itself. And you'll see there's now a small icon in the bottom right corner, and that says that this is a smart object. It's in a protected folder that I can drill inside and make changes to. But that folder, you can put non-destructive things on it, but you can't do destructive things. If I tried going through, for example, and I want to use the burn tool on this and I want to darken the pixels, it won't let me do that. Because it's a smart object. I'm protected from doing that destructive thing because the burn tool is a destructive edit. If I wanted to burn this, I would drill down into the image. Whoops. Sorry. Let me actually... Oh. There we go. Let me go back one. Did I lose my smart object?
Did it close?
Let me step backwards for a second. There we go. Okay. So I hit OK on the box, which rasterized the image and made it not a smart object. I never rasterize anything if I can help it. So if I wanted to use the burn tool, instead of coming over here and getting it right away, I'd drill down inside this guy, which opens up the envelope. And I would duplicate the layer so that I have a layer that I could afford to destroy. I never permanently edit the original image if I can help it. I like to keep the original reasonably pristine in case I completely mess it up.
That's true. So many people, often what they do is they'll buy stock images and then they completely delete them. They do all sorts of stuff and then they go, oh, I have to buy it again. I go, no, don't do that. It's amazing how many people do that. It sounds like something people wouldn't do, but they do.
So here I'm going to do dodge and burn, and I'll just make my little bit, make a little more drama in the neck, a little more drama in the face, pull out the little goatee, have a little burn, pull this up a little bit, pull that up a little bit. Whoops. Actually, no, I want to dodge on that. Pull that up a little bit more. So this is something where I always want to duplicate this, and Controller Command J is the shortcut for that, which Leave is reminding me about. So thanks, honey. So definitely this particular one is the one that I can mess with. I still wouldn't leave these, like I wouldn't name that background. I'd probably, call it dancer or something, just because I always name my layers. After you get over 30, 40 layers, you really have to name them to be able to understand what you've done. But now that I've done this, I close the Smart Object and save it. And when it refreshes, eventually, I have the effect of the dodge and burn on his face without having done anything to the image that's permanent. So everything I've done, I can get out of. I can go back to the original pixels at any time. So this protected envelope of a smart object is something that makes it a little bit easier to work with, and I can do things to that. I can do stuff to the smart object itself. I can add in brightness, for example. So what I just did is I just added an adjustment layer from the bottom of the layers panel instead of from the adjustments panel. And this is something I can turn on and off, and I can edit. It's non-destructive. If I don't like how the light is affecting him, I can use a mask, and I can make sure I make the light only affect part of him.
Now, what about using light effects?
If I went to, on this, and I went into filter, let's see, render lighting effects. Come on, pop up. Where is it? There we are. It's going to take a second for this to refresh because my computer's doing a few too many things. There we are. So let me just move this guy around a little bit. And I'm going to take this and say, yeah, that's the effect I want. When I come back out, I've really done a pretty drastic change on this, but let me refresh a little bit. Come on, keep up. Come on, computer, you can do it.
Now this is 3D lighting, right?
Yeah, this is. I went in and played with one of the features that's a little bit heavier duty. So I took a really strong pass. I mean, you've lost most of this guy, but I didn't hurt any of the pixels because it says Smart Filter. The reason it says Smart Filter is because when I went to the Filters menu, I was on a smart object. Because it's a smart object in a protected envelope, the filters are non-destructive. I can turn this guy off, or I can edit this, and I will edit it with a gradient, and just right on the mask say, only show me some of that. And now I have this, let me give him a little spotlight on his face here. There we go.
Yeah, what a dramatic effect.
Yeah, and it's all non-destructive. It's fast, it's easy. Really, most things, smart objects will help you. And all you do to make a smart object is if you have an image, you right-click on the layer and you choose Convert to Smart Object. And you can also get to it through the menus, but it's it's just right there, and you can get to it through the little hash marks here too.
Well, we should bring you back because you're going to have to leave in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to hop off at 5 of to get onto a web meeting about one of the events that I was talking about at the beginning. We're getting some details, and it'll be good.
And the beauty of what Kirsten just did is really show you how you can get very creative with Photoshop without really having to destroy anything, and just by adding some filters, what a difference in the drama you can create in any single photo. It's really a great tool. Actually, most of what you see on TV and movies is fake anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You can do that with Photoshop and with video tools and with just about anything. It's really kind of neat.
Yeah, I should look up what PSB means as a smart object. I have no idea.
PSB.
It's just the extension for what happens wrapped in a protective layer.
Yeah, it's probably Photoshop B. PSB, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I B for smart, B for object, B for protected. It doesn't register for me.
Blue.
That's it.
It's Photoshop Blue.
So that's the quick and dirty why smart objects are helpful explanation. You can use them in really much more involved projects like the Ferris one. But I'll leave us saying bad or big. There we go. Bad? No, big smart object. You can make really big smart. Nope, still not working for me.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows what the PSP stands for, and I'm sure there are many, many people out there who do, just let me know. It's that bit of geek trivia that I will be happy to add to my arsenal. I'll collect it with students someday.
Well, Kirsten, do we have somebody for next week? I vaguely think we do.
We did, and unfortunately,
that was the reschedule.
That's the reschedule. So.
All right, we'll try to get somebody for next week.
And if not,
we'll continue on the training.
Sorry?
We'll continue on with your training.
I can do Photoshop. I can talk about styles and InDesign. There's a bunch of stuff that I can pretty much off the top of my head. There's a few things I need to prep. So I should probably say I'll do those, so I'll prep them. But I'm chicken.
Yeah. I was thinking while we're doing the show, we should have Leva come on and do a little show on advanced actions in Captivate.
Yes, Leva, you're in the chat pod. You're on the spot. Say yes.
You just got invited.
Say yes.
In fact, we have an opening next week.
Would you like to be our guest next week? We'd love to have you. I'm reading the chat pod. I use Photoshop for web designing. Yeah. I like it for that. I actually, for my web mockups, I've been using Illustrator.
Really? For your web mockup?
I'm one of the weirdos. I like to have this giant vector. Oh, she's got exams next week.
Oh, okay.
We'll bring Leva in to do something. So that's it. That's our little quick and dirty media taste for the week.
That sounds good. Well, anyway, for you guys in the chat room, we appreciate you being there. And if you're watching the show, please subscribe. We'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, and send in suggestions, because if we're going to do, demos like this, I'd be happy to, figure out what you'd like to see. And if it's not me, I can bring in somebody else.
Kirsten is a walking encyclopedia. Trust me.
I do have sad geek knowledge. It's kind of sick.
We're going to call you a media mogul. How's that?
Yeah, I need the money to be called that. No. Cash? No. All right. Well, I'll see everybody next week. And thanks, Rick. This was fun.
It was. Well, everyone, have a good one. We'll see you guys next week on eMediaChat.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, folks.